Welcome to NTD.
Good morning. Here are today's top stories. The Republican National Committee hosts a closed-door event in Palm Beach, Florida over the weekend with a fundraiser at Mar-a-Lago on Saturday. In all, donors and a short list of potential running mates attended. Find out what each has to offer former President Trump as he vies for the White House.
Police continue to tear down anti-Israel encampments on university campuses as others stubbornly hang on. And a new report says anti-Israel protesters are passing around a manual at Penn University on how to make weapons and more.
Israel orders 100,000 civilians in Rafah to evacuate after ceasefire negotiations break down. And Israel kicks Qatar's Al Jazeera network out of the country on grounds of national security.
Russia expands a suppression campaign against the meditation practice of Falun Gong. Authorities raid the homes of multiple practitioners in Moscow and throw one in jail as Russia deepens ties with the Chinese regime.
It should have been the trip of a lifetime. A trio of young friends with their surfboards and tents in Mexico, but it apparently ended in murder. More on the bodies found in a well in Mexico.
Heavy rains create catastrophic conditions in some parts of Texas. A child is dead after being swept away by the floodwaters. We have dramatic rescue footage.
A money grab or a needed step to improve the transit system. New York City's congestion pricing toll set to begin in June, angering Staten Island's borough president, who's suing for environmental reasons.
This is NTD Good Morning. Live from our global headquarters, here are Evelyn Lee and Kevin Hogan.
Welcome to NTD.
Good morning. Today is Monday, May 6th.
Yeah, and I read the reports about those videos showing Gazans strapping mattresses to the roofs of their cars and even using carts drawn by donkeys to get their stuff out of there as they evacuate.
Right. Yoav Gallant reportedly was inside Gaza, and he said to expect intense action. That's a quote, very soon.
Yeah.
All right, topping today's news, Israel's army is ordering tens of thousands of people in the city of Rafah to start evacuating. An army spokesman said around 100,000 people were being ordered to move today.
The IDF says Israel is preparing a limited scope operation. The spokesman would not say if that meant the start of a bigger offensive. He said the civilians are being sent to nearby humanitarian zone.
Overnight, Israel's defense minister told Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin Israel has no choice but to act in Rafah.
This comes after Hamas ended ceasefire talks in Cairo yesterday. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says ending the war with Hamas still in power poses a threat to Israel.
And at the same time, the Israeli government is kicking Qatar-funded Al Jazeera out of Israel. The Israeli parliament passed a law allowing the temporary closure yesterday.
Officials cited the network's threat to national security. Authorities confiscated broadcast equipment in Jerusalem. Israel is removing the channel from cable and satellite platforms and blocking its websites. President Biden is meeting Middle East ally Jordan's King Abdullah II at the White House today.
And anti-Israel protests continue at universities across the country. NTD's Daniel Monahan has more on that and a closer look at Penn University, where the interim president ordered the disbandment of an encampment over a week ago.
At USC in California, police tore down an anti-Israel encampment on Sunday for the second time. At the Art Institute of Chicago, police arrested 68 people during a demonstration on Saturday. At the University of Michigan, anti-Israel protesters were kicked out of the university's main commencement ceremony after interrupting it. And at the University of Virginia, police drove off anti-Israel protesters and took down tents on Saturday. At Penn University, protests are in their second week. Demonstrators protesting on campus here call for an intifada, which is an armed uprising by Palestinians against Israelis. Here, protesters call for canceling contracts connected with Israel or the Israeli defense industry. Protesters stand at an entrance to the encampment. Here, a sign accuses Penn University of being complicit in what the protesters see as a genocide in Gaza. Electrical engineering professor Eric Trofimov describes Penn University as tolerant and accepting of diversity.
We want to have freedom of speech also, but always, let's say, within the boundaries of mutual respect.
Trofimov is troubled by reports of Jewish students feeling harassed or intimidated by the protests.
We must not forget that we are here in a country in which those problems do not exist. We don't have violence in between ethnic groups here. We don't have intolerance. Everybody has civil rights.
Professor of Middle East Studies Nada Mata says protesters are fighting for justice and equality.
These are anti-war protesters that we should all be kind of imitating them.
Psychotherapist Donna Bodenheimer got her doctorate at Penn University.
I don't totally understand it, but I really respect it.
Counter-demonstrators are calling for the encampment to be disbanded. Meanwhile, Fox News reported that some demonstrators at Penn University are handing out manuals on how to make weapons, break into buildings, and escalate protests. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
Former President Trump's election campaign and the RNC say they raised over $75 million in April, over half of that from small donors.
That exceeds the more than $65 million raised by Trump in March.
President Biden's re-election campaign has routinely surpassed Trump's fundraising ahead of the November 5th election.
Saturday's announcement came as Trump and the RNC hosted a retreat in Florida. Those attending included donors and high-profile politicians, including vice presidential hopefuls.
Some potential VP candidates include Senators J.D. Vance and Tim Scott, a couple of members of Congress in Ellie Stefanik and Byron Donalds, and Governor Kristi Noem of South Dakota.
The latest Real Clear polling average showed Trump with a 1.3% lead over Biden. Fundraising weekend for former President Trump with events in Palm Beach, Florida, and at his private residence at the Mar-a-Lago Club. Potential picks for his vice president attended, as we mentioned. It's a big decision with a lot riding on it. Let's learn more from Mike Leon. He's our contributor and the director of policy and strategy at the Free and Equal Elections Foundation, as well as the host of the Can We Please Talk news commentary podcast. Mike, great to have you with us here. Based on what you're seeing, who's Trump's most likely VP pick?
Well, Kevin, first off, good to see you first and foremost. I mean, there's no way I'm going to know that. I don't think you're going to know that. I don't think Donald Trump even knows it right now. You know, according to former folks that have been around the president, this is really a gut choice. You know, he didn't choose Mike Pence until, late in the process in July. Didn't call him till about the first weekend in July back in 2016. And I remember somebody who was instrumental in that process, coming on our program recently. And he told me, look, there was a group that the former president was struggling with, and that was evangelicals. And Mike Pence checked a lot of the boxes and obviously had been in conservative politics for so long. So that's why he got selected. Right now, the candidates that Trump is kind of putting out there, some of them check a little bit of the boxes, but some of them are redundant in terms of the base that he already has that's going to turn out to vote for him. So it'll be interesting to see how this kind of plays out. But there's a couple of names out there that are interesting to me, at least. Congressman Byron Donalds is pretty young in the House, but he's somebody, again, African-American vote right now is crucial. Suburban women is going to be a crucial vote for the former president. So candidates that kind of align with the groups that the former president is struggling with is some to look out for.
So Rubio and Scott were brushing off these concerns that the identity politics are going to play into the VP pick here. But what do each of these candidates, potential VP picks, bring to the table for Trump? What advantages?
Well, Marco Rubio would first have to obviously move out of the state of Florida. You can't have two folks that are from the state on the ticket. But he brings, obviously, the Latino vote potentially, right? There's a huge Cuban-American population down here in Miami, of which Rubio is a part of. He's been able to message to Hispanics before in the past. He's run for president before in the past. With Tim Scott, you have the same thing, right? Tim Scott just recently ran back in December, before he ended up dropping out. And obviously he's an African-American. He comes from a state in South Carolina, which again, strong Republican hold there in the state. So both of them give the advantage of talking to the two minority groups that are, in play this year. Let's be honest about it. We've seen polling data that has shown both groups are potentially in play. And I know the former president, with respect to African Americans, is trying to make a bigger dent, or at least try to get more of the African American vote that he got in 2016.
Yeah, Mike, and Senator Rubio there was brushing off those questions about whether or not he would leave the state, saying that he would want to make sure that he goes to a state where there's not a DA pressing Trump with charges there. What is the best timing for Trump to pick a VP to have maximum impact?
Well, I mean, I think the best time to pick one would be, a couple weeks before the convention, to be honest with you. And I think given that timeline and given what some of his folks have said, they all think that he's going to make the selection around the same time he did in 2016. There's no rush with this with respect to the rallies that he's doing. But if you recall, back in 2016, he had Mike Pence attend a rally in Indianapolis that he did before he actually made the announcement. So, to get a little bit more of the buzz with his base around the pick as well, you want to give it a little bit of time before the convention happens in July in Milwaukee. So I think that'll be the timeline that it'll match up. But right now, these fundraisers, all of these media tours that the candidates are doing, I think it's all open auditions to try to see who can favor up and cozy up, or at least get some of the support with those groups that I mentioned before that he's struggling with.
Great hearing your insight this morning. Contributor Mike Leon, Director of Policy and Strategy at the Free and Equal Elections Foundation, and host of the Can We Please Talk News Commentary podcast.
Thanks, Kev.
Trump made a stop at the Formula One Miami Grand Prix yesterday. Crowds were heard chanting USA as arrived outside the McLaren racing garage on pit lane. He waved to fans and saluted during the national anthem prior to the start of the race.
Trump was there as part of a campaign stop. He was one of many big names at the Formula One race, including Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, and Patrick Mahomes. Former President Trump is calling for his classified documents case to be thrown out after a court filing by special counsel Jack Smith. Prosecutors wrote the order of materials in some boxes was not the same as earlier portrayed. They added that it was inconsistent with what was represented to the court. Trump wrote on Truth Social that Smith should be arrested. He argues Smith's filing equates to an admission of evidence tampering. Trump says it shows Smith's team mishandled the boxes used to bring the case. Smith's team provided multiple possible explanations in the filing on why the documents were rearranged. The FBI seized the boxes from Trump's Mar-a-Lago home in 2022. Trump has pleaded not guilty.
Coming up, Russia expands a suppression campaign against the meditation practice of Falun Gong. Authorities raid the homes of multiple practitioners in Moscow and throw one in jail as Russia deepens ties with the Chinese regime.
And it should have been the trip of a lifetime. A trio of young friends with their surfboards and tents in Mexico, but it ended apparently in murder. More on the bodies identified that were found in a well.
More than just beautiful dance. It's a touch of the divine. More than just legends. It's the beautiful culture and wisdom of China before communism. More than just a performance. It's an experience that awakens the soul.
Lincoln Center, NJ Pack, State Theater, Purchase, and Stamford. Starting March 28th. Tickets at genuine.com.
Do you ever wake up and realize your life has no purpose?
Do I have a death wish? Morgan asked. Maybe I did. I thought this would be our final run ever. We had made millions and millions of dollars, but God had other plans.
The one-time drug dealer turned pastor, along with 2 others, will be executed at 12 midnight local time.
The next day, something strange happened. Someone came up to me and gave me this flyer about Jesus.
You can be in heaven, or you can be in hell. The choice is yours.
We'll walk straight out of here. Pretend to be the media.
This pathetic maggot got caught, tried to escape my prison. Nobody escapes my prison.
He's a changed person. He's a new man.
I found Christ in here, and he forgave me.
I found Christ too.
My name is Peter Lone, and I will be executed in 2 hours. Why am I being executed, you ask?
Jesus is for free, and salvation is a gift. Do you believe in Jesus?
Life doesn't always give you time to change the outcome. Prediabetes does. 1 in 3 adults has prediabetes, but with early diagnosis, prediabetes can be reversed. And you can change the outcome. Take the 1-minute prediabetes risk test today. Go to doihaveprediabetes.org.
Good to have you back. And big update overnight in the Israel-Hamas war. Israel's army is ordering tens of thousands of people in the city of Rafah to start evacuating today. This comes after Hamas ended ceasefire talks in Cairo yesterday.
And at the same time, the Israeli government is kicking Qatar-funded Al Jazeera out of Israel. The Israeli parliament passed a law allowing the temporary closure yesterday.
Officials cited the network's threat to national security. Authorities confiscated broadcast equipment in Jerusalem. Israel is removing the channel from cable and satellite platforms and blocking its websites. So we're bringing in David Wormser now for some analysis on this. He is a Middle East affairs analyst at the Center for Security Policy. Good morning. Good to see you again. A lot has happened. Let's start with Al Jazeera. So Al Jazeera is Qatari owned. How could this impact Israel's relationship with Doha, also considering the role it has and is playing during hostage negotiations?
Doha, first of all, it will affect relations, although the relations are pretty bad to begin with. Doha has been one of the main sponsors of Hamas, and the Al Jazeera channel was basically used as a propaganda arm to help manage the public, to shape public opinion on Hamas during the war on behalf of Hamas. So it's really a government instrument, and it will be something that the government of Qatar will be quite angry about having closed. So it will deteriorate relations. Of course, the only thing that really matters to the Israelis is not what the Qataris think. As I said, it's a pretty hostile country at this point. What matters to the Israelis is they're also the mediator for the hostage negotiation deal. But I think with the collapse of those talks anyway, that overarching concern for the concern for the Israelis went away.
So does that mean future talks would be made more difficult through that as well, or do you see future talks even happening?
Well, the Israelis were talking for 4 months, and they were holding off waiting for the talks to go somewhere, and they kept getting a harder and harder position from the other side, from Hamas. And there was no pressure coming from Qatar. So Qatar was really failing as its role as a mediator, and it more or less acted as the advocate for Hamas rather than the intermediary. Israel then shifted its negotiation strategy with Hamas to more directly through the United States and Egypt, and a little bit with Turkey. So essentially removed Qatar from the equation. So that I think means the talks, as far as Qatar is considered, are over. I think the Israelis will always be open for a pause for getting back their hostages. But overall, I think Hamas's response over the weekend, which was no to the deal on the table that the United States called quite extraordinarily gracious, and the launching of rockets or mortars yesterday morning that killed 5 Israeli soldiers,
Right. I want
is
to
what
talk
the
about
Israelis
that
take
too
as no.
in just a second.
Yeah.
First, I want to get your reactions on this, because shutting down press is quite a big move, and the Foreign Press Association called it a dark day for democracy. Just quickly, what is your reaction to that?
Sure. Well, it's a little bit hypocritical. The European Union and Britain closed down Russian channels after the invasion of Ukraine because they were propaganda tools. They weren't really journalistic organizations. And here too, Al Jazeera is not really an organization, a journalistic organization. Its journalists participated in the October 7th attack. They have peddled disinformation, whether it's the hospital that was hit that wasn't hit, whether it's the reports on Israeli soldiers raping Palestinian women, which they didn't do. Everything was really propaganda on behalf of Hamas. And then they started reporting on the positions of Israeli troops, and this during the middle of a war. So the Israelis took measures, and it's only for 45 days, by the way. The Israelis didn't close Al Jazeera permanently. They closed it for 45 days during the duration of the hottest part of the next phase of the war, because it was really used as an instrument of the enemy rather than as a journalistic
I'm sorry to cut you short here,
association.
because we just have a couple of seconds left, and I do want to talk about, the Israel now asking civilians to leave Rafah. What do you think this could mean? How significant is this? Does that mean they're moving in?
Yes, I think it probably does. That was always going to be the first stage of the invasion, is to remove civilians. We're hearing up to 300,000 have already been moved. This latest flyers and push shows another 100,000. And what's most significant about this is it's in the area of the border crossing with Egypt. So Israel's really cutting off Gaza from Egypt at this point. That's what this suggests will happen now.
Very interesting. We'll keep a close eye on that. Thank you so much, David Wormser. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Evelyn.
And moving on to the meditation practice of Falun Gong, also known as Falun Dafa, has been heavily persecuted in China since 1999. And now Russia may be looking to deepen its ties with the Chinese regime by following its lead.
This weekend, a Moscow court ordered that one female practitioner be put in jail for 2 months, pending an investigation.
Moscow police raided the homes of 5 Falun Gong practitioners on Friday, arresting 4. That was under a controversial law against what Russian authorities deem undesirable organizations. The list includes independent media outlets, journalists, and U.S. think tanks.
The suppression campaign previously included book banning, harassment, and interrogations. But it's the first time Russia has gone to such extremes against the meditation practice.
Russian President Vladimir Putin is set to visit China this month. Leaders from the 2 countries declared a no-limit partnership before Russia's invasion of Ukraine. NTD's Jeremy Sandberg reports.
A Moscow court Saturday ordered 46-year-old Natalia Mininkova be jailed for 2 months after raids on Falun Gong practitioners' homes on Friday. Prosecutors accuse her of committing a serious crime against the foundation of the constitutional order and security of the state. Court records say that was for organizing Falun Gong-related meetings and distributing literature. Russian authorities have used the law against carrying out the activities of an undesirable organization to target over 100 organizations, along with journalists and human rights activists. The law carries a penalty of up to 6 years in prison. Russian authorities and state media parroted Chinese Communist Party disinformation describing the meditation practice when publicizing the raids. Executive Director of the Falun Dafa Information Center, Levi Browdy, told NTD the closer a regime gets to the CCP, the more they will try to appease them.
Going after dissidents of the Chinese regime, going after people who are speaking out against the tyranny of the CCP.
He says the home raids and arrests raise questions around freedom of speech and belief for all Russians.
I mean, if they're going to use some of these vague sort of rules that have been put in place over the last several years, but they're using against the Falun Gong practitioners here, I don't think anybody's safe. Because again, if they're going to go after peaceful meditators, who else might they go after?
On Saturday, National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan spoke at the Financial Times Weekend Festival in Washington, D.C. He said it came as no surprise Russia would repress all kinds of people on issues relating to freedom of speech, press, assembly, and religion. He acknowledged Russia's deepening ties with the Chinese Communist regime.
Russia is increasingly relying on China for a lot of things, particularly as they have lost other avenues economically, technologically, and otherwise. So this is a relationship that we look at closely, carefully.
A White House National Security Council spokesperson told NTD the administration is concerned whether it happens in China, Russia, or elsewhere in the world. The State Department in its latest human rights report said Russia misused anti-terrorism and anti-extremism laws, as well as other measures, to target Falun Gong without any credible evidence of violent actions or intentions. Jeremy Sandberg, NTD News.
Relatives have identified 3 bodies found in a well in Mexico as those of 2 Australian surfers and 1 American. The 3 went missing last weekend. Thieves apparently killed the 3 who were on a surfing trip to Mexico's Baja Peninsula. A state prosecutor suggested the thieves wanted to steal their truck because they wanted the tires. They then allegedly got rid of the bodies by dumping them in a well near the coast. 3 suspects are being held in connection with the case. The 3 men were on a camping and surfing trip, posting idyllic photos on social media of waves and isolated beaches.
And coming up next, who is funding the pro-Palestine protests on college campuses? Find out why one author with extensive knowledge of billionaire George Soros says he and his organization may be indirectly involved.
Heavy rains create catastrophic conditions in some parts of Texas. A child is dead after being swept away by floodwaters. We have dramatic rescue footage.
A Close the Border rally in Boston draws hundreds of protesters. Find out what people had to say.
I was born into the wrong body, Mom. I was astounded by what they were teaching. Child Protective Services did show up at my house. Parents are fearful of losing custody of their children because they say the wrong thing. Risks?
No risks. We got everything covered, I assure you, Mrs. Connors.
They don't want anyone to know the truth.
I can't stay quiet about this anymore. It's destroyed my health.
We're pushed into silence.
The tempting online world is encroaching on our campus. Is unplugging cables and confiscating phones the solution to protect our children? No, we just need a clean multimedia platform. Join Ganjing Campus to leverage premium channel features, professional development courses, and kindness event toolkits tailored for teachers. Build a truly positive and interactive classroom community. Foster a pure and delightful learning environment for children.
My baby's back from the West Coast.
Here are those pictures that you asked for your school project? First day of school, cute as a button.
So long ago.
Oh, here's Grandma Florence after that flood wiped out the whole neighborhood.
Sometimes I just cannot believe all the storms we've gone through here.
I can only hope that we'll be able to leave this house to you one day, baby. You're our legacy.
Planning for these disasters will make sure we're safe, and it's the best way to protect that legacy.
Those beans smell heavenly.
Give Mom a little credit.
You know what? We should make an emergency communication plan. That way we're ready this year.
Great idea.
At my dorm, we have emergency kits for earthquakes and wildfires, but I'm sure there's something more local I can send you with the link.
Okay.
Smart.
come to share with you guys.
Protect your legacy. Plan for natural disasters today. Visit ready.gov/plan.
Do you know that Cars for Compassion is the best way to donate your car? Through this non-profit program, you can not only help us keep bringing the world independent and daringly truthful journalism, but also significantly impact the life of somebody who needs a vehicle. The Epoch Times fights misinformation and big tech censorship by being independent and unbound to advertisers. Every single contribution to Cars for Compassion is a powerful endorsement of our unwavering mission. All you have to do is go to carsforcompassion.org and let us know about your car, and we'll schedule a pickup time and email you a tax-deductible receipt. To do this, just click the link below, support truth, compassion, and hope. Donate your car right now at www.carsforcompassion.org.
After 15 years of smoking, Eva Marie quit. There's a new lung cancer screening that could save her life. You stopped smoking. Now start screening. Learn more at savedbythescan.org.
Good to have you back. Anti-Israel protests at universities across the country continued this weekend.
Police cracked down at several universities, clearing out encampments just in time for commencements.
Demonstrators at Penn are on their second week of protests. Protesters are calling for an intifada on campus, which is an armed uprising against Israelis.
Police also tore down an anti-Israel encampment at the University of Southern California for a second time.
Anti-Israel protesters were kicked out of the University of Michigan's main commencement ceremony after disrupting the event.
Over 2,000 protesters have been arrested on U.S. college campuses since the protests started. And more on the anti-Israel protests that have erupted on college campuses across the country. Is there a flow of money going to support these demonstrations? Does that involve billionaire philanthropist George Soros' organization? And is Soros helping the Hamas terrorist group go mainstream? Here's what Rachel Ehrenfeld, the founder and president of the American Center for Democracy and its Economic Warfare Institute, told me about this.
Well, he's supporting it, I guess, indirectly and directly by supporting the demonstrations, the pro-Hamas demonstrations, pro-Gaza, pro-Palestinian demonstrations on campuses and on the streets of America. He has started funding pro-Hamas, pro-Palestinian terrorist organizations under the guise of human rights organizations. All of them call themselves human rights. Even the demonstrators at Columbia that demanded vegan food delivered to them called it, this is their right, this is human rights.
Would you be able to provide us with any hard evidence that you have that shows that Soros's Open Society Foundation is providing these funds to these groups such as Students for Justice in Palestine, for example?
Not directly, but indirectly. So by giving money to Tides, Tides is a big foundation that works a lot with mostly Democrat and left organizations, giving millions to them for projects to protect human rights and promote human rights in Palestine. They are actually giving the money to whoever. So when Alex Soros, who's now running the organizations, was asked, when the spokesperson for the Soros Foundation was asked a while back, but you are funding this, money goes to Hamas, this money goes to Islamic Jihad, this money goes to other Palestinian Islamic organizations. He said really a very feeble attempt of plausible deniability. He said they are not supporting, for example, the BDS groups, which are part of this whole ruckus. But he admitted that times they don't know where their support is used, where it ends up.
And expanding a little further on that, the Students for Justice in Palestine reportedly is overseen by Westpac, and a watchdog said that Tides gave Westpac about $132,000. As you mentioned, Tides gets millions from Soros's Open Society Foundation. The Washington Post reports that SJP denies receiving money from Westpac and says there is no public record of contribution. What's your reaction to this?
Well, the whole system is so opaque that I don't think that even with an AI you could actually track the money. They use all kind of loopholes in charity laws and other laws, and the Muslim students and the Students for Palestine are really the biggest organization, and they are not being funded only by one. They receive huge amounts of money from many foundations, countries, organizations. They are the major actors in not only in the United States but in demonstrations everywhere against Israel and pro-Palestine and pro-Hamas.
Thank you for providing your insight with us today. Rachel Ehrenfeld, founder and president of the American Center for Democracy and its Economic Warfare Institute.
Thank you.
NTD reached out to the Open Society Foundations. They did not immediately respond to a request for comment.
On to weather. Storms in Texas bring additional rain Sunday to the already saturated Houston area.
Meanwhile, near Fort Worth, a 5-year-old child tragically died after being swept away by floodwater. A lieutenant with the Harris County Sheriff's Office discusses the flooding.
These people live down here. They've been through this before. They experienced Hurricane Harvey, and the way this is, it's not region-wide like Hurricane Harvey was, but in this area, it's second only to Hurricane Harvey.
A dramatic rescue as police save a man and 3 dogs from the 10-foot deep muddy waters. The man and a dog are safe. The policeman swims another canine to safety. A 3rd dog is rescued by the attentive police officer.
In Harris County, boats are the current mode of transport on these drenched roadways. The shocking extent of the heavy flooding in the county can be seen here as a rescue crew rides a boat along completely submerged streets. This dead-end sign doesn't apply for now, with roads and fields replaced by a big lake.
Rising waters in this Texas town threaten to overtake this road. A ruined Texas road can be seen here as heavy rains cause the asphalt to crumble and crack apart.
In Johnson County, a 5-year-old boy died after being swept away from a car in swift-moving water on Sunday. The child and 2 adults were trying to get to dry ground when the tragic incident happened.
And hundreds of protesters attended a rally in Boston over the weekend called Close the Border outside the Massachusetts State House. The group is opposing current border policies and Massachusetts sanctuary city laws. Here's more.
USA! USA!
The rally on Saturday saw speakers and protesters demanding the Biden administration and state lawmakers close down the border to stop the massive influx of illegal immigrants. Maureen Maloney is an Angel Mom spokeswoman. That's a group who have had loved ones killed by an illegal immigrant.
And expecting the already overburdened Massachusetts taxpayers to pay for the welfare of foreign illegal migrants is an abuse of our sovereignty.
Talk radio host Jeff Cooner puts the entire illegal immigrant situation into a historical perspective.
Never in the history of any nation has a country taken in this many migrants in this short a period of time. This is the greatest migrant invasion in the history of the world.
Former Massachusetts State Representative Jeff Deal warns current border and right to shelter laws are quickly leading to a distressing outcome.
In some cases, I know there's asylum process. Go through that asylum process. But people are coming now, and there's no questions being asked. They're just being given all these benefits, and it's bankrupting our state.
If you knew that veterans were getting kicked out of their homes, not getting money, and we're bringing in millions of illegals, that's just not, it's not right.
Several Massachusetts cities are sanctuary cities and provide a right to shelter for any immigrants, legal or not. The state's emergency assistance program already has a deficit of about $224 million this year. Next year's program will cost an estimated $1 billion. Massachusetts adopted the first in the nation right to shelter law in 1983. Last summer, due to the influx of illegal immigrants, Governor Maura Healey asked residents to volunteer to host newcomers, including those who came illegally and are not eligible to stay at state-run emergency shelters.
Coming up, another UAW strike averted at the last second. A new contract for auto workers is approved, including a significant pay raise. That and more with the host of Business Matters.
Do you believe in Jesus?
The one-time drug dealer turned pastor, along with 2 others, will be executed at 12 midnight local time.
I thought this would be our final run ever. We had made millions and millions of dollars, but God had other plans.
We'll walk straight out of here, pretend to be the media.
This pathetic maggot got caught trying to escape my prison.
He's a changed person. He's a new man.
I found Christ in here. I found Christ too.
My name is Peter Lowe, and I will be executed in 2 hours. Why am I being executed, you ask?
Salvation is a gift.
Hi, I'm Tim Che, the director and writer of the Firing Squad. You can participate in our Million Souls campaign, inviting everyone you know to Jesus. Listen, we all face some kind of firing squad in our lives, and yet faith in the Lord, that challenge can lead us to true peace in this insane world. We can't do it without you. We're competing with big Hollywood movies, so we're relying on your voice to spread the word. Thank you again for supporting this important movie.
Is deep-sea fish oil really healthy? Due to pollution in the oceans, most fish contain heavy metal elements and radioactive substances. That's why it's so important to choose a pure source of omega-3. Puritang green vegetable omega-3 is made from purslane and perilla seeds, which are rich in nutrients and minerals, especially vitamins A, D, E, calcium, and iron. With natural processing and no harmful chemical additives, it has more than 90% concentration of omegas 3, 6, 7, and 9. It effectively improves brain power and is beneficial to the heart's health. Puritang omega-3 does not smell of fish and contains no pollutants, so both adults and children can safely and easily consume it over a long period of time. Puritang green vegetable omega-3, greener, healthier, and more effective. Visit puritang.com to learn more.
When it comes to making plans, you are the best. What about those barbecues you plan in detail for your family? Or your daughter's first costume party? It was out of this world. The same way you plan each detail for those moments, start planning to protect you and your loved ones from a natural disaster. Sign up for local weather and emergency alerts. Prepare an emergency kit and make a family communications plan. Protecting your family is the best plan you can make.
Thanks for staying with us. We have NTD's Business Matters host Don Ma with us right now to give us the latest updates from the financial world.
Don, what's going on with UAW?
Well, Kevin, a strike was averted at the 11th hour here. So the United Auto Workers Union on Saturday ratified a contract with Daimler Truck. So members of the UAW, ratified this contract with the German truck maker, and the vote was over 94% in favor of this new contract, and it covers more than 7,300 hourly UAW workers. Now, the contract includes at least a 25% general wage increase over 4 years, and UAW President John Fain said the pay hike matched what workers at the Detroit 3 received in talks last fall, and workers will receive an immediate 10% 5% pay raise, followed by a 3% increase in 6 months and 12 months later. And then Fain also said that lowest paid workers at Daimler's Thomas Built Bus unit will receive raises of more than $8 an hour, and some skilled traders workers there is going to get more than $17 an hour. And the contract covers hourly workers at 6 facilities in southern states where, by the way, unionization has been low traditionally. So those factories, including 4 in North Carolina and parts warehouses in Georgia and Tennessee as well. Just a quick update for you guys.
Got it. Sounds good. And it sounds like maybe, Daimler was also able to dodge a bullet there. If you remember how UAW strike cost Ford, Stellantis, and GM, was it? Billions. So let's talk about Berkshire Hathaway's annual shareholder meeting. It took place over the weekend. So what can you tell us about that?
So a lot of eyes on that, and a lot happened, in fact. So I'll just mention a couple things that I personally found interesting. Not enough time to go through everything, but Berkshire shareholders rejected climate, diversity, and China proposals. So what happened here is shareholders, they overwhelmingly rejected 6 proposals Saturday addressing environmental, social policy issues at Warren Buffett's conglomerate. So now, for example, they voted against disclosing more about their efforts to address climate change. That's including greenhouse gas emissions, as well as turning down a proposal for more disclosure about efforts to promote diversity, equity, and inclusion in the workplace. And as well as shareholders voted against requiring Berkshire to report annually on how much business operations depend on the Chinese regime. So I found that interesting to me.
Yeah, it's good to know, especially since Berkshire Hathaway invested in that Chinese electric car company back in 2008, and then just 2 years ago, they started cutting that back a little bit here. Let's move on. We're going to talk about Chinese regime leader Xi Jinping. He just visited Europe for the first time in 5 years. He started off in France. What can you tell us?
Yeah, that's absolutely right here. So he's in France this morning, and Xi Jinping praised China's ties with the country as he arrived in Paris for a rare visit at that. So French President Emmanuel Macron is set to urge Xi to reduce trade imbalances with China, and France is also going to seek to make progress on opening the Chinese market to its agricultural exports. But we have to keep in mind that this visit to France and other European countries at that comes amid an environment that is very different from the last time that he visited 5 years prior. So for starters here, what I'm talking about is France is backing a European Union probe into Chinese electric vehicle exports. And in January, Beijing ordered an investigation into mostly French-made imports of brandy. So a little bit of confrontation there in terms of trade. And then on top of that, in the past weeks alone, the European Union has launched trade probes into China's wind turbines and procurement of medical equipment, and raided Chinese offices and Chinese nationals as well. And then major breakthroughs with China's toughest critics this time around is not going to be so easy. It's going to be faced with some challenges here.
Right. Well, it's also, very concerning what he's actually trying to do, because he's going to Serbia and Hungary as well. And a German member of European Parliament says that this is actually shows that he's working to establish an authoritarian axis in international politics, considering that they're close to Russia also. So back to the U.S., there's a shakeup within ABC News Network.
Yeah, there certainly is. So ABC News President Kim Goodwin announced Sunday that she's going to be leaving her position after being appointed in 2021, 3 years ago. So Goodwin's exit came after viral reports over tensions within the network. Disney Network's Deborah O'Connell also issued a statement expressing gratitude to Godwin for her work. Godwin reportedly faced internal backlash at the network over her leadership style, as frustrated insiders at ABC argued that O'Connell needed to take some action here.
She's had quite a career. ABC, CBS, NBC, 10 local stations. Don Ma, host of Business Matters, thank you.
Thank you.
Now, some would call this a miracle or proof that cats really do have 9 lives.
A Utah cat was found by an Amazon employee hundreds of miles away in California after sneaking into a package. NTD's David Lamb has the story on how one couple got reunited with their traveling cat.
We're not kidding around with this story, which one couple says is nothing short of a miracle. Galina is an indoor cat, a Siamese American short hair with calico coloring. She caught a surprise trip for herself nearly 600 miles away from home. Her owners said their 6-year-old cat is shy and likes to hide in boxes. And after she went missing in Utah on April 10th, Carrie and Matt Clark looked through every nook and cranny, posted flyers, hoping to track down their beloved, but to no avail. It wasn't until Brandy Hunter found her at an Amazon warehouse in Southern California. She went 6 days without food or water, hidden inside a box that she snuck into with boots returned to the warehouse. The couple received a notification on April 17th that Galina's microchip was scanned, and then they jumped on a plane the next morning straight to Cali. The Amazon employee said she took care of Galina before taking her to the vet. The Clarks said Galina's blood work came out normal, despite Galina being skinnier, and they're in awe of all the little and big miracles that have taken place.
Mommy loves you. You're so sweet.
Clark said part of the box was split open so Galina could breathe. The weather was ideal, and she came across Hunter, who happens to know a lot about cats. Clark told NTD that they encourage all pet owners to microchip their pets and triple check any mailed packages. David Lamb, NTD News, California.
Truly heartwarming.
Yeah, and such a resilient little thing.
Yes. We're going to go to break here. A money grab or a needed step to improve the transit system. NYC's congestion pricing toll set to begin in June, angering Staten Island Borough President who's suing for environmental reasons. That story coming up.
The 2024 NTD 9th International Chinese Vocal Competition is scheduled to take place at Merkin Hall, Kaufman Music Center in New York from September 18th to 21st. The competition specially invites vocalists from the world-famous Shenyun Performing Arts to serve as judges. The prestigious Gold Award is $10,000. Chinese vocal artists aged 18 to 50 are welcome to register.
Funny expression. There's a little scar right below his neck. The artist, on a trip to somewhere in South America, he met this kid who told him a story about himself. The technique is really good. As you'll see, like in the foreground, there's water on his face. The texture is so realistic, but then sort of in the back, you have these washed out colors, almost a sort of fantasy feel. The whole of the picture is very balanced, and you still get that sense of harmony and warm light from it. The artist, he was really moved by the child's spirit. The child's from the slums, and so he looks around and he sees people who either get into drugs or they get into gangs, and he doesn't want that for himself. So he was telling this artist about how he's gonna make a better life for himself. The immense spirit and determination that the kid had really stuck with the guy, so that's why he painted such a large portrait of the child.
Many of us have been child fighters, but this little kid learned to defend himself in his own way. It's a great sacrifice that way. And so this is another form of strength, another form of endurance. We are capable of much more than we think. These children amaze us.
These are all farmers. Maybe
no,
not
there's
this
not a
one.
farm anymore.
But here's a farm, right?
No, there's also not a farm anymore.
All these people shut down because of the government policies?
Yeah.
The government wants to control the food, so we don't eat meat, but we eat insects.
As the
price of staples goes through the roof. People will say, I can't afford a steak anymore, so all right, I'll eat your stupid crickets.
Good to have you back with us. New York City's congestion pricing is facing some heavy pushback. That's the plan that will cost commuters an extra $15 to enter Lower Manhattan.
The United Federation of Teachers and the Staten Island Borough President are suing the U.S. Department for Transportation, the Federal Highway Administration, and New York City's MTA over this.
I went out to investigate this program that's estimated to bring $1 billion to the MTA annually to improve and modernize the transit system. Check it out. I'm here in Staten Island at the Verrazano Narrows Bridge that connects to Brooklyn. This is a key water crossing in the region, and it carries Interstate 278 that becomes the Staten Island Expressway. How will the Central Business District tolling program affect the number of vehicles that use this bridge? Staten Island Borough President Vito Fasella says it will divert a lot of traffic here. That's part of the reason why he's suing. The environmental disaster he says the congestion toll will bring to his borough. The Federal Highway Administration found no significant environmental impact before they finalized the structure of the program. Fasella says that means more pollution than they thought.
With the North Shore, the MTA had to study the impact of 6 toxic pollutants. And you took an area that is already designated environmental justice because the air quality is bad, their respiratory illnesses, the emergency department visits for asthma are already high relative to the rest of the city. And they had to perform a study and an impact study as to what would happen in year 1 and over the next 21 years to the year 2045. And in each one of those pollutants, things will get worse.
You're not the only person bringing forth a lawsuit. There's another one coming out of Fort Lee, New Jersey for environmental reasons as well. Can you explain just how this is going to cause more traffic congestion in Staten Island?
Well, because people are smart and they exercise common sense, so many are going to refuse to pay the $15 toll, and people will circumvent that area and will force more cars onto Staten Island. We have a Staten Island Expressway that connects Brooklyn to Jersey. It's already jam-packed. It will get worse, which is one of the reasons they predict the pollutants will get worse. It's a money grab and less about congestion, because if it was about congestion, we would get some relief here on Staten Island.
I will point out that Mayor Eric Adams was recently in Albany. He was distancing himself from this plan, saying that he wished the city had more power and authority over it, and if they had, they would have come up with a different plan. You talked about the Fresh Kills landfill and you made a comparison to it. Can you explain that?
Staten Island represents 5% of the city's population, and we received 100% of the city's garbage, 20,000 tons a day, if not more. So we were literally dumped on because they said, well, just dump the garbage for free. And in a way, that's what we're getting here, right? We're getting more congestion, we're getting more pollution, we're getting have to pay for it as well. So it's a 3-strike loser, and it's not too dissimilar from the landfill because we were dumped on figuratively and literally, and with congestion pricing, we're going to be dumped on figuratively and literally with more cars and more pollution.
What's more, Fasella alleges the program violates the Commerce Clause of the Constitution that protects interstate commerce, claiming out-of-state commuters from New Jersey are being discriminated against in favor of New York's local commerce. Governor Hochul says the program will reduce congestion in downtown Manhattan, improve air quality, and provide critical resources to the MTA. Hochul said the federal agency found the program will not have any significant effect on the environment, and it will include mitigation measures. Borough President Fasella's lawsuit is set to be heard sometime in May. The congestion pricing tolls are now reported to begin June 30th, and that's if no judge pulls the brakes on them.
Right. The U.S. Department of Transportation did not respond to a request for comment by airtime, and the Federal Highway Administration said they don't comment on pending litigation.
And we just got word that the case will be heard on May 17th.
Right. Well, whatever you may think, but I do understand Staten Islanders to think that, we're paying $15 for this and then we get more traffic. Well,
think about that. I mean, it's $300 a month if you commute daily into the city.
Exactly.
For people coming from Jersey.
A lot of money for some, but luckily, apparently, some low-income New Yorkers might get an exempt. But let's see how things play out.
There are a few exemptions in there. School buses being one of them too.
Exactly. Right.
Yep.
All right. Just stay put for another minute or so. We'll head to a quick break, and we'll be right back.
NTD News, the fastest growing independent news source in America, bringing you breaking news from around the world. Expert analysis, investigative reporting, and original award-winning documentaries. We're known for our uncensored China coverage you won't find anywhere else. We cover the stories that affect you and shape our world without the political noise. We report from the heart with you in mind. Watch us right here on NTD News.
Welcome to NTD.
Good morning. Here are today's top stories. Police continue to tear down anti-Israel encampments on university campuses as others stubbornly hang on. And a new report says anti-Israel protesters are passing around a manual at the University of Pennsylvania on how to make weapons and more.
Israel orders 100,000 civilians in Rafah to evacuate after ceasefire negotiations break down. And Israel kicks the Al Jazeera network out of the country on grounds of national security.
Russia expands a suppression campaign against the meditation practice of Falun Gong. Authorities raid the homes of multiple practitioners in Moscow and throw one in jail as Russia deepens ties with the Chinese regime.
Where are the majority of migrants heading to the U.S. coming from? For a while, it was the 4 countries directly south of the U.S., but now an NBC analysis shows the source is a global one. A former ICE agent on why that is.
French bakers reclaim the title of the world's longest baguette. We take you inside the difficult but delicious process of breaking a Guinness World Record.
A first-of-its-kind program in Australia trains visually impaired students in woodturning. Find out how that is accomplished.
This is NTD Good Morning. Live from our global headquarters, here are Evelyn Lee and Kevin Hogan.
Welcome to NTD.
Good morning. Today is Monday, May 6th. Today's top news: Israel's army is ordering tens of thousands of people in the city of Rafah to start evacuating. An army spokesman said around 100,000 people were being ordered to move today.
The IDF says Israel is preparing a limited scope operation. The spokesman would not say if that meant the start of a bigger offensive. He said the civilians are being sent to a nearby humanitarian zone.
Overnight, Israel's defense minister told Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin Israel has no choice but to act in Rafah.
This comes after Hamas ended ceasefire talks in Cairo yesterday. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says ending the war with Hamas still in power poses a threat to Israel.
And at the same time, the Israeli government is kicking Qatar-funded Al Jazeera out of Israel. The Israeli parliament passed a law allowing the temporary closure yesterday.
Officials cited the network's threat to national security. Authorities confiscated broadcast equipment in Jerusalem. Israel is removing the channel from cable and satellite platforms and blocking its websites.
Anti-Israel protests continue at universities across the country.
NTD's Daniel Monahan has more on that and a closer look at Penn University, where the interim president ordered the disbandment of an encampment over a week ago.
At USC in California, police tore down an anti-Israel encampment on Sunday for the second time. At the Art Institute of Chicago, police arrested 68 people during a demonstration on Saturday. At the University of Michigan, anti-Israel protesters were kicked out of the university's main commencement ceremony after interrupting it. And at the University of Virginia, police drove off anti-Israel protesters and took down tents on Saturday. At Penn University, protests are in their second week. Demonstrators protesting on campus here call for an intifada, which is an armed uprising by Palestinians against Israelis. Here, protesters call for canceling contracts connected with Israel or the Israeli defense industry. Protesters stand at an entrance to the encampment. Here, a sign accuses Penn University of being complicit in what the protesters see as a genocide in Gaza. Electrical engineering professor Eric Trofimov describes Penn University as tolerant and accepting of diversity.
We want to have freedom of speech also, but always, let's say, within the boundaries of mutual respect.
Trofimov is troubled by reports of Jewish students feeling harassed or intimidated by the protests.
We must not forget that we are here in a country in which those problems do not exist. We don't have violence in between ethnic groups here. We don't have intolerance. Everybody has civil rights.
Meanwhile, Fox News reported that some demonstrators at Penn University are handing out manuals on how to make weapons, break into buildings, and escalate protests. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
Moving on to new migration patterns. According to NBC News, now most of the migrants heading for the U.S. are coming from elsewhere around the globe, whereas before it was the 4 closest countries south of the U.S. Here to detail this is Victor Avila, a retired special agent for Homeland Security Investigations, ICE. Thank you for coming on the show this morning. Victor, why are we seeing such a dramatic shift in where immigrants are coming from?
Well, it's the word that got out globally, and you're right. This is it used to be more of a regional type of thing, Mexico, Central Americans coming, but that word spread very, very quickly throughout the world, and now you've seen people from Africa, China, Eastern Europe, and many other countries coming through, especially the Arizona and California, New Mexico borders. Actually, less in the Texas border right now. Although it's increasing as we speak. But these individuals are very different than, there's different categories of migrants here that are coming. There's an economic migrant, and then there's these type of migrants that have the funds to be able to pay the cartels to come through Mexico to get introduced into the United States. And they're paying tens of thousands of dollars to come into the United States. And so another thing is that we really don't know who they are. They're not really being vetted exactly thoroughly by our government, yet they're still being allowed to come into the country.
Yes, and Victor, this is all happening as changes are occurring in the world's economy here. And according to the International Organization of Migration, economics is a primary factor on why people migrate in the first place. So what security challenges are being posed here with this diverse array of migrants?
Well, I've been saying it for a long time. It's a public safety and national security issue for sure. Because just with China alone, under this administration, we're about to hit about 50,000 individuals, if you can think of that number, that have come in, mostly single adult males, and there is no proper vetting. And so we don't have the idea of why they're coming, the agenda. It's not easily, these migrants cannot be easily categorized as poor migrants like the ones we would see in southern Texas. In Eagle Pass, Texas, for example, is the ones that have to jump on the train and other methods to make it to our border. These individuals, a lot of them are flown in directly from their countries into Mexico City to our border in California, and then literally just walk in.
And speaking of the Chinese people here, who are these Chinese smugglers known as snakeheads?
Right. So when I was assigned to Mexico at the U.S. Embassy, I did a big Chinese smuggling case from China, Mexico through New York. And, just like every other organization, they understand that Mexico is a key factor. And they know that, China being very, very far away, the other side of the world from this part of the world. So they understand that these organizations work a lot of times. These criminal organizations work with smuggling organizations, with the cartels to be able to get there. They know that being in Mexico is as good as being in the U.S.
Right. And Victor, just to give us a scope as to what's really happening here. I mean, there was just 400 Colombians who were coming to the United States in 2019, and now that's increased 400-fold to around 160,000. Just briefly, what is driving that shift?
A lot of it is the magnet from the United States. I've spoken to one Colombian, for example, one Colombian national that said that he had left his business. He was a barber and had a barber shop in Colombia, left his business. He was doing fine in Colombia, but he had this promise that he was going to be better. And in his words said that he was going to be rich if he made it to the United States. And this is the mentality that is being sold to them. It's being advertised throughout the world, and a lot of these individuals that really did not need to come to the United States are finding themselves in a worse situation than they were in their own country once they're in the United States.
Well, thank you so much for coming on today. Victor Avila, retired special agent for Homeland Security Investigations, ICE.
Thank you.
Hundreds of protesters attended a rally in Boston over the weekend called Close the Border outside the Massachusetts State House. The group is opposing current border policies and Massachusetts sanctuary city laws. Here's more.
USA! USA!
The rally on Saturday saw speakers and protesters demanding the Biden administration and state lawmakers close down the border to stop the massive influx of illegal immigrants. Maureen Maloney is an Angel Moms spokeswoman. That's a group who have had loved ones killed by an illegal immigrant.
And expecting the already overburdened Massachusetts taxpayers to pay for the welfare of foreign illegal migrants is an abuse of our sovereignty.
Talk radio host Jeff Cooner puts the entire illegal immigrant situation into a historical perspective.
Never in the history of any nation has a country taken in this many migrants in this short a period of time. This is the greatest migrant invasion in the history of the world.
Former Massachusetts State Representative Jeff Deal warns current border and right to shelter laws are quickly leading to a distressing outcome.
In some cases, I know there's asylum process. Go through that asylum process. But people are coming now and there's no questions being asked. They're just being given all these benefits and it's bankrupting our state.
If you knew that veterans were getting kicked out of their homes, not getting money, and we're bringing in millions of illegals, that's just it's not right.
Several Massachusetts cities are sanctuary cities and provide a right to shelter for any immigrants, legal or not. The state's emergency assistance program already has a deficit of about $224 million this year. Next year's program will cost an estimated $1 billion. Massachusetts adopted the first in the nation right to shelter law in 1983. Last summer, due to the influx of illegal immigrants, Governor Maura Healey asked residents to volunteer to host newcomers, including those who came illegally and are not eligible to stay at state-run emergency shelters.
Former President Trump is calling for his classified documents case to be thrown out after a court filing by special counsel Jack Smith. Prosecutors wrote the order of materials in some boxes was not the same as earlier portrayed. They added that it was inconsistent with what was represented to the court. Trump wrote on Truth Social that Smith should be arrested. He argues Smith's filing equates to an admission of evidence tampering. Trump says it shows Smith's team mishandled the boxes used to bring the case. Smith's team provided multiple possible explanations in the filing on why the documents were rearranged. The FBI seized the boxes from Trump's Mar-a-Lago home in 2022. Trump has pleaded not guilty.
The meditation practice of Falun Gong, also known as Falun Dafa, has been heavily persecuted in China since 1999. Now Russia may be looking to deepen its ties with the Chinese regime by following its lead.
This weekend, a Moscow court ordered that one female practitioner be put in jail for 2 months pending an investigation.
Moscow police raided the homes of 5 Falun Gong practitioners on Friday, arresting 4. That was under a controversial law against what Russian authorities deem undesirable organizations. The list includes independent media outlets, journalists, and U.S. think tanks.
The suppression campaign previously included book banning, harassment, and interrogations, but it's the first time Russia has gone to such extremes against the meditation practice.
Russian President Vladimir Putin is set to visit China this month. Leaders from the two countries declared a no-limit partnership before Russia's invasion of Ukraine. NTD's Jeremy Sandberg reports.
A Moscow court Saturday ordered 46-year-old Natalia Mininkova be jailed for 2 months after raids on Falun Gong practitioners' homes on Friday. Prosecutors accuse her of committing a serious crime against the foundation of the constitutional order and security of the state. Court records say that was for organizing Falun Gong-related meetings and distributing literature. Russian authorities have used the law against carrying out the activities of an undesirable organization to target over 100 organizations, along with journalists and human rights activists. The law carries a penalty of up to 6 years in prison. Russian authorities and state media parroted Chinese Communist Party disinformation describing the meditation practice when publicizing the raids. Executive Director of the Falun Dafa Information Center, Levi Browdy, told NTD the closer a regime gets to the CCP, the more they will try to appease them.
Going after dissidents of the Chinese regime, going after people who are speaking out against the tyranny of the CCP.
He says the home raids and arrests raise questions around freedom of speech and belief for all Russians.
I mean, if they're going to use some of these vague sort of rules that have been put in place over the last several years, but they're using against the Falun Gong practitioners here, I don't think anybody's safe. Because again, if they're going to go after peaceful meditators, who else might they go after?
On Saturday, National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan spoke at the Financial Times Weekend Festival in Washington, D.C. He said it came as no surprise Russia would repress all kinds of people on issues relating to freedom of speech, press, assembly, and religion. He acknowledged Russia's deepening ties with the Chinese Communist regime.
Russia is increasingly relying on China for a lot of things, particularly as they have lost other avenues economically, technologically, and otherwise. So this is a relationship that we look at closely, carefully.
A White House National Security Council spokesperson told NTD the administration is concerned whether it happens in China, Russia, or elsewhere in the world. The State Department in its latest human rights report said Russia misused anti-terrorism and anti-extremism laws, as well as other measures, to target Falun Gong without any credible evidence of violent actions or intentions. Jeremy Sandberg, NTD News.
Stay with us. French bakers beat a 5-year-old record to reclaim the title of world's longest baguette. We take you inside the difficult but delicious process of breaking a Guinness World Record.
A first-of-its-kind program in Australia teaches visually impaired students woodturning without any special adaptations. How is it done? Get the whole story coming up.
Shenyun Creations, the streaming platform from Shenyun, featuring world-class dance, past programs, and all original music. Masterclasses, behind the scenes, comedy, and more. Explore shenyuncreations.com.
I'm Richard Karn, and I love my hose. It ain't those old hoses. This is my hose. The new pocket hose Copper Bullet, now infused with real copper, so your water is always clean and lead-free. Just turn on the water and watch your hose grow and grow. And when you turn off the water, away it goes. Our new inner tube uses 3 layers of high-strength latex on the inside. Then it's wrapped in a new polymer filament jacket, 3 times stronger than the other hoses. But my favorite part of our new hose build? The oversized, easy-to-grip fittings. Get the super light 25-foot pocket hose Copper Bullet today for only $29.99. But wait, call now and get our copper spray nozzle with our exclusive thumb drive free. This is an exclusive release of our newest pocket hose. Order now.
Call 1-800-960-8919. That's 1-800-960-8919 or visit copperbullet.hose.com. Order now.
Do you believe in Jesus?
Peter Lowe, the one-time drug dealer turned pastor, along with 2 others, will be executed at 12 midnight local time.
I thought this would be our final run ever.
We had made millions and millions of dollars, but God had other plans.
We'll walk straight out of here, pretend to be the media.
This pathetic maggot got caught trying to escape my prison.
He's a changed person. He's a new man.
I found Christ in here. I found Christ too.
My name is Peter Lowe, and I will be executed in 2 hours. Why am I being executed, you ask?
Salvation is a gift.
Hi, I'm Tim Che, the director and writer of The Firing Squad. You can participate in our Million Souls campaign, inviting everyone you know to Jesus. Listen, we all face some kind of firing squad in our lives, and yet faith in the Lord, that challenge can lead us to true peace in this insane world. We can't do it without you. We're competing with big Hollywood movies, so we're relying on your voice to spread the word. Thank you again for supporting this important movie.
Welcome back. French bakers have just set a new world record. They made a baguette measuring over 460 feet long yesterday.
They reclaimed a title that Italy has owned for the last 5 years. Let's take a look.
The record involves much more than just baking a long baguette. A Guinness World Record representative was on hand to make sure the record attempt met their strict requirements.
More rules must be met than just the measurement. The hygiene laws must be abided by locally. The ingredients must be traditional ingredients used, as well as the traditional cooking method for making a baguette. Finally, it must be one continuous piece with no breakages.
The work to make sure everything went smoothly almost met with disaster.
We had scares at certain times. We had to keep the baguette under surveillance all the way, which was not easy, whether during the rise in the oven or during the descent. The cooking inside the oven, even the kneading and shaping for the teams, everything was inevitably tense.
Finally, after hours of painstaking work, they received the good news.
I would like to congratulate you on setting this Guinness World Records title for the longest baguette at 140 meters, 140.534 meters.
This was a labor of love for the French bakers. After all, baguettes are the iconic bread of France.
We're in France. We're the ones organizing it. We have the Baguette UNESCO World Heritage credentials. So there you go. It's a pride to have achieved it, and to have achieved it at home.
Part of the baguette was cut and shared with the public. The rest was to be given to the homeless.
Well, it only seems appropriate that the French have this title.
Yeah, exactly. How do they lose it?
Well, yeah.
And that's a lot of footlongs you can make with that.
That is very true. Wow.
Over 460.
Yeah, that's right. But also, I really wonder what is this oven they use to bake this thing?
Good question, because it's all one continuous piece.
Right. I saw I saw an oven that didn't look much different. I guess they put it in different steps. But anyway, I think maybe I might research that later. But
I've seen pizza competitions where they actually have to hold the oven over it when it's like this wide area.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
They have their ways.
Yeah, makes sense. All right, and in today's Inspired, an Australian workshop is giving visually impaired students the chance to learn the art of wood turning.
The program uses unmodified equipment. Instead, it encourages trainees to focus on the sound of the machinery and the feel of the wood. Let's learn more.
This workshop in Brisbane, Australia looks, sounds, and smells like a regular wood-turning facility, but here it's the sense of touch that has priority. The workshop is part of a Vision Australia program teaching blind or low-vision people the art of wood-turning. The workshop has everything visually impaired trainees need to succeed. However, there's one thing you won't find here.
It will surprise you, but there is no extra adaptions put onto any of the machinery. We ask them to look at the wall and use their ears, use their hands, and feel the job, listen to the way it's cutting.
While wood turning can be dangerous even for trainees with good vision, this workshop has another surprise.
Touch wood, we have not had an accident in this facility.
Trainer Nathan Price is legally blind himself. His experience in learning woodturning allows him to be a better teacher to his trainees.
That was a learning curve for myself using that technology, but once I was able to learn it myself, I could pass it on to the clients.
Trainee Renee Kelly has learned to overcome visual challenges to create diverse items.
Oh, I made all sorts of things. A jewellery box, made the set of drawers, bedside table.
In the beginning, lessons proved to be a bit daunting for Kelly, but now she enjoys the boost in confidence and independence the program gives her.
It's just been an awesome journey, and really one that I really want to continue.
Vision Australia is a non-profit organization helping people who are blind or have low vision. It's the first program of its kind in the Southern Hemisphere.
That would be a boost of confidence. If you can do this without seeing, you can do anything, I think.
Yeah, and it's really great how they're including everybody in this process because, I mean, they can make some really cool stuff with that wood turning. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think there's researchers, right, that if you cannot, like one of your senses is impaired, it will heighten other senses. So, I think, just let me see here, the National Eye Institute, it says that people that are born blind or become blind early on have heightened other senses, like they have better musical abilities or also better ability to track moving objects. Wow. So yeah, imagine having to cross a street in New York without seeing. Yeah. That's quite an undertaking too. Yeah, well, and these types of woods are actually used in Egyptian monuments and everything too. So I mean, it's definitely a rich piece of culture. Absolutely. And it might help that, they were placed so close to the wall so that the sound waves can bump off and they kind of hear more about what's going on. That is interesting. Yeah, I assume that would help. All right, with a quick look at the time, we have to wrap up our show right here, but be sure to stay tuned for NTD's News Today broadcast at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. That's coming up. And for round-the-clock original news coverage, visit us at ntd.com or download our NTD app. That's right. Thanks for watching. I'm Evelyn Lee. And I'm Kevin Hogan.
I have never seen a production any better than this, anywhere.
Breathtaking. It is absolutely stunning.
I feel better about the world. I feel uplifted.
Invigorating. It was encouraging, gave me hope.
This has just been therapy for the soul.
It's a must-see. Must-see.
Make sure you see it. Make sure you see it.
Coming to Lincoln Center, NJ Pack, State Theater, Purchase, and Stamford.